The main problem is that is a very specific number. On the 13th, I believe that was Sunday, the United States made an announcement through their embassy. They're donating vaccines to Trinidad and Tobago. And on Trinidad's side, we saw an announcement made. The government of Trinidad and Tobago is receiving this donation on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago from the US government. In quick time, that was changed a bit to the Ministry of National Security would be accepting these donations from the United States. So it became clear that the donations weren't for all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, but more specifically for some members within the national security infrastructure. Up till now, we aren't exactly too sure who these people are, and that's what one of the government ministers came out and he tried to address this and tried to give an answer, and he tried to get some people to relax about the fears that the donations would be for the 1%. Personally, I didn't think the donations would be for the 1% because the 1% won't announce if they were bringing in their vaccinations. And the term 1%, we must understand the origin of this term is meant to display a class disparity, while sometimes in Trinidad we hear this term being used by people who may very well belong in the 1%. So the opposition leader is one of the favorite users of this term. She very often speaks in negative terms about the 1%, but to any person observing, if you observe her lifestyle and her wealth, she is a member of the 1%, at least the 1% in Trinidad and Tobago. So the term 1% kind of takes a different connotation when we're talking Trinidad and Tobago. But either way, the 1% would generally be the wealthier people in a country. And if they are in positions of wealth where they are able to access and source these vaccines, well, they're in positions to also keep it more silent than this. And our Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs sought to make this point very clear and make it very clear that this had no real underhanded movements in it. Pfizer vaccines going to intelligence community, vaccines not for 1%. The consignment of 400 doses of Pfizer vaccines is going to the intelligence community within the Ministry of National Security, a government official said yesterday. And speaking on the matter, on I-95 FM radio, Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Minister Dr. Amory Brown said he wanted to clear the air on what was a very small gift from one security arm to their counterpart with whom they work very closely in Trinidad and Tobago. I will go a little further. This is Dr. Amory Brown speaking. He said, I will go a little further to say that it is my understanding that this particular type of arrangement is not unique to Trinidad and Tobago. Brown emphasized that this was a specific gift from an arm of the US Security Services for their counterparts in Trinidad and Tobago. This is not anything for the 1% or government officials and their children, he said, dismissing the mischief on social media. Asked what triggered this gift, Brown said his understanding was that this offer came from the US side. This was certainly no specific request made via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to the US in this particular manner, he said. Okay, that's very specific of him to deny. He said there was no specific request made via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So was there a specific request made via another ministry? Because I'm sure it's possible for requests to be made outside of only the Foreign Affairs Ministry. And I'm suspicious the way how specific he structured that answer. On the Prime Minister not referring to this gift at Saturday's news conference, Brown said the Prime Minister may not have been aware of the exact time of the arrival of this gift since he was focused on the global picture. And I'm sorry, but I do not buy that. Whether you were aware of the exact time of arrival or not, if you were aware that this gift was being sent in this general time frame, it would have made sense to make it public right then when you were in the middle of a press conference. It makes you wonder if there was intention to keep some of this hidden and that the announcement from the US side blew the cover on it and now they couldn't keep it hidden anymore, and that's why we are now hearing about it from that side. It really raises that suspicion. Now, I'm not sure of this, and there may very well be plausible reasons and good rationale for why this played out the way it was, and it may be just a series of unfortunate coincidences that paint things in this negative light. I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm saying that I don't know. And it looks suspicious, really and truly. And if you watched my contemplation today, I spoke about this issue. And in the beginning, when I started doing some more of the YouTube videos, part of my intention was to be able to expand a bit on some of the contemplations, because on TikTok it's only 1 minute, actually 59 seconds. And obviously 59 seconds is not enough time to really be able to expand on certain things. I saw a comment today, and one guy in the comments, he was like, a lot of my videos now are just me spouting unfounded information. And I had to respond that, well, I didn't have to respond, but I did respond. And I responded by quoting a few of these articles that I read through to have a little knowledge about what I'm speaking about. Not that I can't be wrong, obviously I can be wrong, and I've been wrong many times before, but at least this way, if I'm wrong as these articles say. So for example, there's an article here that explains how the Pfizer vaccine is shipped. Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine is being shipped in specially designed insulated containers that hold between 195 to 975 5-dose each vials, of which are about the size of a carry-on suitcase. So the vials are stored in thermal container, which is size compartments, contains 5 of these. And weighs about 70 pounds. So 195 vials would be in a pizza box shaped container that would be slid into another box that could hold up to 5 of those pizza box like shaped containers that could have held 195 in each. So now what you are telling me happened there, if we are to believe that this is a donation and the donation happened from the US side, someone took it within themselves to open this box up, take out one of these compartments, count out 80 specific doses, and then you would have to put it in another compartment and put it in another box, and then you would very likely seal this box back up and send this now to be donated to Trinidad. Does that make sense to anyone else? Is it only me that finds that that story doesn't seem to add up to you? Like, okay, you could very likely get me to believe that this donation is intentioned for specific members of the intelligence community in our national security ministry in Trinidad and Tobago. That's believable. But for me to believe that the US government, some group in the US government that had access to donating vaccines, would also know that this specific group of intelligence agents, this specific group of the intelligence community, it has 200 members, because the 400 doses could vaccinate 200 people, and they would count out specifically just for these 200 members and not send for the rest. Or maybe, does it sound more likely that whoever these 200 people may be, may have made a specific request for 400 doses, and then in response to that, to see a specific amount like 80 vials would make more sense. Does that make sense to you? Tell me in the comments. Tell me if it makes sense to you. And if you haven't liked the video yet, if you do like it, drop a like. Click that like button. If you're not subscribed yet also, make sure to click that subscribe button. And you could click the notification bell so you'd be sure to know just when every video I make is dropping. Share the video, share the content. Let's increase the audience and the reach. If you think these are the conversations that need to be had in our country and we need to elevate the level of discussion that we're having, well, the way you can do that is by sharing the video to people within your friend list. Share it on WhatsApp, on Facebook, wherever you'd like to. But as I said in my contemplation, if it's a request, there are lots more questions to answer than if it's a donation. So it can make sense why some people may rather it sound as a donation instead of as a request. But whether it's a request or a donation, if these Pfizer vaccines are going to people within the intelligence community, these are the people who should be knowledgeable about things that are occurring around the world and specifically in our country. At least that's my hope when you're hearing something such as the intelligence community. So if these people are in the intelligence community, why don't they trust the vaccine that the rest of our population are being vaccinated with? The majority of our population are being vaccinated with the Sinopharm vaccines, and the rest of people have been vaccinated with the AstraZeneca vaccine. So if you are in the intelligence community and you would prefer the Pfizer vaccine, are you giving a message now to the rest of the population that you have some intelligence to insinuate or suggest that the Pfizer is preferable to the rest? And if you have that intelligence and you're in the National Security Ministry, that means you're being paid by us. And I'd like to know that intelligence, please. Otherwise than that, what's the point of this donation? Because haven't we already prioritized the essential services? I'm sure all these members within the intelligence community, if they so desired, would have been able to get their own doses of Sinopharm vaccines. And we've recently received another shipment of these vaccines. So we are getting vaccines. Why do they see the need to have to get this Pfizer vaccine? That's one of the questions I would be very curious about. And another thing that I would be very curious about is why would the US willingly embarrass themselves by only donating such a small number of vaccines, while we know that the US currently is in a bit of a cold war and a size match with both China and Russia. We're seeing China donating vaccines all around the world, and the US is responding with their own promises of donations, and Russia is doing likewise, and they're heckling each other about it. And I'm sure the US diplomats are very aware of this bit of tension, and I think they would have been aware, or at least they should have been aware, of the mockery that would have been made when they made this announcement. That's even more reason for me to believe that this wasn't exactly a donation coming down from the US official channel. The Russian publication Russia Today, RT, if you ever see that anyway, RT, it stands for Russia Today. It's one of the largest Russian publications internationally. We made a headline over there. They have an article here, headline, Size Matters. US gives Trinidad and Tobago population 1.4 million 80 vials of Pfizer jab. Washington has an ambitious plan to donate millions of vaccine doses to poorer countries. The Caribbean island nation of Trinidad and Tobago has received a small vial gift, but some are confused about the size. It is understood that the US role in helping Trinidad and Tobago deal with COVID-19 would be far more significant than the 80 vial delivery. However, its modest size prompted many commenters to respond with sarcasm. And then the article went on to show some examples where many people responded in mockery and sarcasm to the announcement made. They showed some examples of it on Twitter. If you'd like to read these articles, this and every article I use during the video, the sources I use, I try to post all of them in the description. Feel free to click the description, see a list of them there, and feel free to read the articles yourself. Further on, they said Trinidad and Tobago, which has a population of around 1.4 million, has been relying on foreign donations of vaccines to fuel its immunization program. Under the World Health Organization's COVAX vaccine sharing program, 100,800 doses were allocated, with 2 of 3 shipments of 33,600 doses delivered so far. And that's one of the problems with the COVAX facility. Remember, the promise with the COVAX facility since last year was that this facility and this program would be the solution to our vaccination problems. We'd be vaccinated through this charitable organization. But while we were struggling for vaccines, and we've still only received only 2/3 of our promised allocation of vaccines, Canada has 5 times the amount of vaccines they need to vaccinate their population. And as many times as I'd bring up COVAX facility and speak about them in different videos, I'd like each time to mention that, because many of these larger countries, especially Canada, they like to portray such a benevolent image. They're the caring one among the first world powers. They care about what happens in these poorer nations. But when it really came down to a question of the inconvenience of Canadian citizens versus the survival of people in some of these poorer countries, we saw where their actual loyalties lay. And it's not really surprising, of course, your loyalties will lie with your citizens. But then we really need to temper the rhetoric. When you're speaking on the international stage, you can't try to make it seem like you're the fairy godmother when you're just another one of the wealthy neighbors. And we saw that the Chinese ambassador to Trinidad didn't slip on the opportunity to join in and point out these facts to the US. The Chinese ambassador, Mr. Fang Kui, he posted on Facebook, and he posted this also on Twitter. His response was, I came across an article in today's newspapers entitled, Vaccines Key to Everything. It was filled with ironies which makes one ask the question, how many have been delivered by them? Nothing, other than lip services, condescending lecturing, even malicious labeling. I am confident that the best way to keep one's lead is through constant self-improvement, and not by attempting to block the development of others. It is for these reasons that China will continue to stand in solidarity with TT and other developing countries to co-build a common community of a shared future. And in that regard, I am happy to share the good news that a second tranche of 200,000 Sinopharm vaccines are arriving tomorrow. Action over rhetoric. Listen, I have no real favor for China. They're basically an ethno-state, meaning it's one racial group that rules there. One racial group has the supremacy there. If you have a problem with white supremacists, well, you won't like the Chinese government and the way the Chinese country runs generally. But if we're seeing from the very start of the US donations, it seems to be tied up in this very obvious opaqueness. That doesn't give a good signal for the future and how it may go as it progresses. Maybe I hope that it improves as it goes on, and as more of these vaccines are donated, maybe more people would have access to it outside of the secretive intelligence community, whoever that may be. What do you think? Tell me in the comments, drop a comment, tell me what you think, and I'll see you in the next video tomorrow at 10 a.m.
And you feel the music, rising with the time.